But I think just thinking ahead, like what do we want our home to look and feel like, and what are things that we prioritize? And I was like, what if we just keep the TV in the closet and just pull it out when we need it? And that small decision ended up lasting until now. So it's probably been like 15 years or so of keeping a TV in a closet. And I know like kids would come over to our house and they would be like, where's your TV? They'd be so confused, like baffled. Where is it? I'm like, oh, it's in the closet. And they were always like, okay, you're weird. Because it's so important to protect that family time. And so I think that's really just that concept of whittling things down to what's essential and making sure that you're putting your time and your resources into the things that matter most.
So first of all, for anyone who's a little less familiar with what you do, can you tell me what your mission at Better Screen Time is, and then lay out a little bit for me the difference between free content you have available on your website and then the courses that you offer as well?
Yeah. So again, like I said, I'm a natural warrior. I'm got it down. And so as we made this big move from Illinois to Oregon, there were a lot of changes going on. And one of them is our oldest was in middle school. We just had this leftover smartphone. And so we handed it over to her. And it didn't take long for me to realize that it was too much too soon. And my mind had been busy doing other things. So I just really hadn't made this decision with enough preparation, I guess is the best way to put it. And so we went back to a brick phone. And so it was really challenging and hard. And again, I found myself in that place where I was parenting from fear. And so I started doing tons of research, and most of the information I could find was related to technology, and our kids was very like fear-based. Now remember, we kept our TV in the closet for like over 12 years. So I had done I felt like a really good job of protecting my younger kids. And I still feel like, that's what I teach parents at Better Screen Time. But when your kids are young, just keep them off the screens as long as possible. And if you need to, use the TV and watch something that's very slow moving. But as our kids get a little bit older, we need to start giving them tools. And so I really just felt like there needed to be a resource for parents to help them worry less and connect more with their kids. And so that's what my mission is at Better Screen Time. Yes, it's important, excuse me, for us to manage the technology, but it's even more important for us to maintain that connection with our kids. And that's what I'm really here to do. And then as far as like the resources we offer, we have a lot of just posts, and we have a self-evaluation that talks about, is your child ready for a device? And really it's more like, is your teen ready for a device? Because I don't recommend giving your child a device. But usually they start asking around 10, 11, 12. And so it's kind of just this great resource that parents can use. They can go through these questions, and the child themselves can do a self-evaluation and just look at it and think, okay, well, do I do all my chores without being asked? Do I get up for school on my own? And it's just a bunch of questions that help them see if they're responsible and if they're emotionally mature. And we've had hundreds of parents download that and use it. It's a very effective tool. We use it in our own home to decide, if it's the right time to hand over a device or not. So, we have a lot of resources like that. And then we also have 2 courses available for families. And one of them is called Creating a Tech Healthy Family. And that's really best for like school age kids. So I would say like ages 5 to 13. And what the point of that course is first to help parents get their own tech habits in place, because I always think it starts with us as parents first, and I share some of the changes that I've made over the past few years. And then next, then you're just having conversations with your kids to come up with a family tech plan, to talk about the dangers of pornography, to talk about not wasting time, like cyberbullying, online safety, all of those things. It's just a great way to get your family on the same page. And they're the exact discussions that we did with our kids. And I just realized it's so important to get our kids involved and to have them help make those decisions. And I learned that the hard way. And then our next course is called Untangling Teens in Tech, and that is specifically for a parent to work with their teen. So that's like best for ages 13 to 17, or even maybe age 12. If you've got a 12-year-old that has a lot of access to a personal device and you want to maybe prepare them. And it's just our solution to, instead of just handing over a cell phone contract or throwing on a monitoring app, it's a way to help you connect with your teen and build a relationship first. And it's not that we don't believe in monitoring apps. We actually use one ourselves. But I just think that oftentimes it's the first place that parents want to start because it's kind of the easy fix. And I just think that gives parents a false sense of security. And so I really want to help parents go through this process that I went through with my own teen to build their relationship first and then kind of work together to create some tech boundaries.
I get the impression from the way that you have talked about this in the past that certainly this was never kind of the plan for future business, and that there may even be an element of really feeling called to do this work. And I wonder, did you feel any resistance or reluctance to take on this kind of duty, this kind of responsibility, and how did you kind of wrestle through that?
Yeah, I felt a lot of resistance. Man, I'm almost tearing up over it. But yes, so my husband always knew that I wanted to start a business. And so I remember even going hiking with my husband and like, what about this? What about that? And so he'd heard this over and over so many times. Well, let's see, it's probably been like 5 years ago now, maybe 4 years ago. And I was going through we were having the same conversation. And my husband, Tyler, said, you really should help parents with technology. He's like, that's something that we're struggling with. And so many parents are struggling with that right now. Such a hot topic. And I pretty much just told him, I was like, who in their right mind would do that? And I told him, I think that sounds really hard. But on that same drive, while we were driving, I actually had a questionnaire from somebody online. It was like questions to ask your spouse while you're just in the car driving. And one of the questions I asked Tyler was, what's your biggest fear? And he said, to lose my job and not be able to provide for our family. And I don't know if I've ever really shared this, but wouldn't you know, like 3 weeks later, so my husband worked for a very large company. 3 weeks later, the company did a massive layoff. And unfortunately, Tyler was part of that. And we were completely blindsided. Even though we knew the layoffs were coming, I just thought, okay, this guy's got a PhD in mechanical engineering from Purdue University, just one of the top 10 engineering schools in the country. Like, how do you get laid off? Like, that does not make any sense. And I look back and I can see that there were a lot of tender mercies, but we had talked a lot about moving back west and getting a little bit closer to family, and we love the outdoors, so we'd really missed the mountains. Anyway, that started a journey. So that was when the move happened. It wasn't planned, and our kids had just been in school for a couple of weeks. So this was like August, and we had just kind of gotten everybody into school. So it was not fun, 5 kids, and we had built our house there. So we had a home that we really loved. Anyway, we moved to Oregon, and so he had gave me this idea before we ever left. But I actually got a course from one of my business mentors. His name is Pat Flynn, and he has a course called Smart from Scratch, and he just helps people who want to start a business like land on their idea. And it's this really kind of cool process that he does with post-it notes. So I had all my ideas on post-it notes, and you're kind of like taking them away till you kind of whittle it down to your main idea. And then I just started feeling really those stirrings within. And like I said, I spent a lot of time praying and really did just feel like that's where my voice was needed. And so once I decided, I was like, yeah, this is where I'm needed. But yeah, there's still moments where I'm like, what did I get myself into? But it's helped my own family. And I always tell Tyler that, and I tell people that, I'm like, even if this doesn't help anyone else, I've come out ahead.
Oh, that's so incredible. Good for you for acting on that. That's really hard to do. Go kicking and screaming into a creative pursuit is not easy. One of the things I really love about the way that you run your platform is that you try really hard to be really non-judgmental of other people's parenting choices and the ways that they choose to parent. But you're still teaching, you're guiding, you have strong opinions about what isn't the right way to do it. And so tell me about kind of finding that balance in trying to be non-judgmental, but still being a teacher and promoting good choices.
Yeah, well, I think anytime that we can share from personal experience is helpful. And no one can argue with that. I think when you are sharing, like, I've noticed since I don't take my phone in the bedroom, that I have a better relationship with my spouse. Or I've noticed since I don't allow my kids to do that they're like chit-chatting at night. And I think too, the longer you've been a parent, I feel like the less judgmental you become. I feel like I was a lot more judgmental when I was younger, and I'm definitely having teenagers soften too a little bit. That way is helpful. And also just like I've watched friends and family go through some really hard things that I've never been through. I watched my brother go through a divorce, and I know like his girls got devices way sooner than I would have ever wanted to hand over, but like their situation was so different than mine, and he's got his kids half the time. And so I don't feel like it's my place to judge that decision. So I try really hard to make those kind of resources rather than just saying, this is the age when you should do this is the age when you should do that, because really it's all just a matter of opinion, because even the research doesn't agree.
Okay, I have a couple questions from viewers, if that's all right.
Yeah.
First of all, you talk a lot about teens really needing to have a voice in the decision-making process in your home, and really having buy-in to the rules that you decide on. But teens can be notoriously know-it-alls and feel like they already know everything all the time. So how would you approach a situation in needing to set up those boundaries and have these kind of conversations with a teen who just doesn't believe there are dangers or concerns with technology or the internet?
Yeah, well, I think that one thing that's been helpful for me is definitely to explore the research together. So that's something that my teen and I have done. In fact, I picked some of my favorite TED Talks, and I include that in the course. But we watched some of them together. And then I even picked some articles that were from the perspective of teens, which was helpful for me, like to see what a teen's perspective might be. And so I think if we can always lean into listening, that goes a long way. Even if we don't agree, like we don't come to an agreement, we can always listen. And that's something that my teen has taught me. And the other thing is just that it's not always going to be easy. I think just because we know what the research says or we have our own opinions and thoughts about it, it doesn't mean that it'll be easy to create these boundaries, and also that it takes time. And that's why I always recommend that parents take things very slowly. Um, Definitely giving them freedom and choices where you can. And that might not be with technology, it might be in other areas, but really, that trust is like a two-way street. And so I know for me, when I was a teenager, if someone treated me like an adult, I just felt like so awesome. You can see like the difference where some adults are kind of like condescending and like you don't know anything, and other adults are like kind of treating you up here. And so I think it really does kind of just start with that respect. Definitely. I mean, yeah, teens can be know-it-alls. I've taught them. I completely get that. But you're the parent. And I think that's another challenge that sometimes we have, is we just think they're going to hate me, but a little bit of pushback is okay. It's necessary, actually.
Yeah, that's why parenting is not for the faint of heart, I guess. Okay, here's another question. And I want to preface this by saying I recognize that you're not a child psychologist or a child development scientist or anything like that. But you have done a fair bit more research than I think most parents have on this topic. So in this era of COVID-19, and a lot of parents who are concerned about screen time are feeling forced into more screen time than they would normally be comfortable with for their children. Is there a difference on the way that screen-based learning affects a child's brain versus just entertainment on a screen? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to like specific studies or anything, but I guess I'll just first say that face to face, nothing can replace a good teacher, and nothing can replace like face to face learning. And obviously, like programs and apps that have been designed to teach our kids, are more beneficial than just like games, wasting time like playing games. But I will say, even these educational apps have been designed to be enticing to our kids. And the one thing that I have learned is from a book. It's called Reset Your Child's Brain by Dr. Victoria Dunkley. She talks a lot about the effects of the interactive screens on our children and how they do increase the dopamine in their brains. And it's kind of like playing the lottery is the best way to describe it. But when they're touching the screen, they're getting this dopamine hit, and so it's a reward, and so it starts to create those pathways in the brain, and then you want more and more. Just even watching our kids, we can learn a lot from their behavior, and I can see that those screens really are, just the touch screens in general are more addicting. This stage in their lives is so precious, and there's so many other skills that they need to be learning. And I think that that's really what it comes down to for me, is it's not so much that the screen time is horrible and bad. A lot of times it's really just there's an opportunity cost there. So what skills are they missing because they're spending time on screens?
Okay, you talked about using the TV as an appliance, which I think is so intriguing, and just keeping it in the closet. One of the things that you've talked about that I have really loved is that you use technology as a means of connection. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we try really hard to think of screens, I guess screen time. We use the 3 C's, which is something a lot of screen time experts talk about. So that's creating, connecting, and consuming. And so if we're creating something on a screen, we're definitely more lenient with that at our house. And then and then there's like consuming. So we're just like scrolling social media or we're watching YouTube or whatever, that might be. And then there's this connecting piece or communicating. And I think that's become so important over the past few months where our kids haven't been able to see their friends in person and we haven't all been able to get together with our friends and family. Then we can use those screens obviously to do FaceTime or to do a Zoom call and to connect. And then as a family, like we love doing family movie night. And so it's a together thing. And that's a way that we can connect because we're all watching all together. And so those are some things that kind of help us make those decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been such a helpful kind of benchmark for me as I've made decisions about my own family screen time in the last couple of months. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me, Andrea. Can we do a quick speed round?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Andrea, what's your favorite sound?
My favorite sound is the sound of rushing water, I guess, down a mountain stream, like a mountain stream rushing down. That's my favorite sound.
That's cool. What's your least favorite sound?
I would have to say sirens, because it means somebody's in trouble and needs help. And it just kind of pings my heart. It just makes my heart hurt.
Oh, wow. I've surprisingly never heard that answer. That's a good one. What's your favorite word?
My favorite word, let's see, I was thinking about this. It's actually 2 words, but it's a phrase. And it's thank you. I love it when my kids tell me thank you. I guess that's my love language, is acts of service. So when I feel like I've done something for someone and they say thank you, it's all I really need.
I love that. That's great. Andrea, what do you know?
Yeah, so I was trying to figure this out, but I guess perseverance. And maybe that's kind of a non-tangible thing, but it's something I've definitely had to learn over my lifetime. And I mean, I think a lot of people do, but especially over this past year, as we've had a house fire and had to rebuild and move back in our home, just persevering, sticking with it.
That's cool, and a great gift to your family. That's really neat. What do you want to learn?
So I used to kind of play guitar when I was in college, and I lost mine a long time ago, and we actually just replaced it. And my husband is, like I said, way more musical than I am, so he usually ended up playing more than I did. But I want to get back on that. So that's what I'm hoping to do. Learn a few guitar songs.
That's cool. Pick up a hobby again. Tell me about a mom you admire.
Yeah, so her name is Tamara Dunford. And when I was a young mom in Indiana, she was just like, I don't know, 5 years ahead of me. And she would invite me over and just let me hang out at her house. So I just had like one kid, like a little baby, and I didn't know anyone. And she would have me over and we just have mac and cheese with her kids. And I felt like I just got to see an amazing mom, like firsthand. She's one of those people that always makes you feel like you're the most important person in the room. And I now I look back and I think how amazing that was, because she had like 2 or 3 kids. She's trying to like get lunch and I'm sure get, you know, take care of and do naps and whatever, but she'd invite me over and just welcome me into her home, and I just will never forget that.
That's incredible. Those kind of friends they make all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea, what are you good at?
I'm good at teaching. I would say teaching is something that I love to do, and I way prefer it in person than over Instagram stories. Getting behind a camera has been a definite challenge for me, but I love like getting in a room with real people, and I love asking questions and just hearing. So I don't love teaching because I like imparting knowledge. I love teaching because of what I learned from other people. And maybe that's, one of the reasons why you like doing these interviews. I'm sure you have so much knowledge about being a mother, but I love teaching. And that's probably why I don't like Instagram stories as well, because it's very one-sided. But I love learning something and teaching it to someone else.
Cool. That's great. Well, thank you for sharing with us today, Andrea, and for giving us your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Robin.